Yeah, okay.
We are live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gyan Pravah episode number 285, the show where we dive deep into ideas, people, and policies transforming healthcare in India and around the world. I'm your host, Dr. Sarita Shamsundar, the chairperson of the Fogsi Gynecological Oncology Committee, and your host for the 9th of every month. In today's episode, Serving with Science and Soul Lessons from Dr. Ravi Kannan, we talk through a journey of Dr. Ravi Kannan, who, from a life saving surgeon, has become a beacon of compassion and who has redefined what it means to serve. This podcast series has been initiated by Madam Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar, who's a visionary leader of Foxy, who started with this year's theme with Ek Rashtra Ek Mission, Swasth Nari Samriddh Vatan, Har Ghar Foxian. This resonates deeply with our mission to empower women and enrich lives. Through impactful initiatives like Know Your Numbers, Sampurna Swasth Janma Abhiyan, Aparajita Sampurna, Do Teeke Zindagi Ke, the flagship Eagle Project, Arogya Yog Yatra, Gyan Pravah, Foxy Anuban, along with 7 publications and the Arogya Sakhi app, we are weaving a strong and inclusive fabric that connects every Foxian to the heart of the association. These efforts ensure that each member feels valued, involved, and an integral part of our shared mission. Some initiatives that Madam has initiated for women's cancer are the for cervical cancer, we have the Do TK Zindagi Ke launched on World Cancer Day, the Foxy IMA project on training 50,000 IMA doctors on HPV vaccination, the Nirmal Banaras Abhiyan on HPV testing, and then educational programs on the HPV vaccine for the Foxians, and also the Swasthanari Abhiyan Yatra. Madam has always been ready, encouraging, and supporting in all our projects. This month is actually also the Cervical Cancer Elimination Month to commemorate Cervical Cancer Elimination Day on 17 November, where we plan to train as many as Foxy and IMA members in a consolidated way in counseling and communication for HPV vaccination. So we today's guest speaker is Dr. Ravi Kannan, who is an Indian surgical oncologist based in Assam. He is the director of the Kachar Cancer Hospital and Research Center, Silchar, which is a non-profit hospital that provides free cancer treatment. He was the former head of the Department of Surgical Oncology at RDR Cancer Institute in Chennai. He is a recipient of the Padma Shri, one of the highest civilian honors, and the Raman Magsaysay Award, the highest award in Asia, and is called the Nobel Prize of Asia. So, although he did his education from the medical college in Chennai and then also did he's trained as a surgeon and a surgical oncologist, but then he has moved to Assam, and then he's actually running this cancer hospital, and which is a thing which is he has devoted his life to serving in this hospital. So, Madam, for your words
Thank
and
you.
your message.
I need to thank you, Sarita, for getting a faculty of this stature. Thank you so much, Dr. I should say Padma Shri Ravi Kannan, sir. Uh,
Plain Ravi Kannan.
Shifting from Chennai, staying in Silchar, Assam, and serving the humankind, this is real spirituality in medicine. I have one program called Arogya Yog Yatra, where we are trying to bring the spirituality in a medicine, the message we want to pass loud all across the gynecologist. But you are the live example of living the life with the spirituality by serving the world and serving the people. I think God has gifted us one life, and we are in a fortunate situation of giving or helping someone, and you are using every moment of that. I think you are aptly awarded by Padma Shri and Nobel Award. Sir, it is a great honor that you have come on a Foxy platform. This Star Pravaha podcast series, by coming on the Foxy, taking out your time on a Sunday evening, be at home so that the connectivity is good. It's a huge commitment for us also, sir. For 1 hour, you have taken out for us. And I'm sure there will be a lot to learn just by having your dialogue with Sarita, your life journey. I think it will be so much stimulating to young generation and all alike, whether they are a doctors or a non-medico. This is very important, the way one doctor can commit the life to serve. Sir, thank you so much again for coming on this podcast and coming on Foxy platform. It's our honor. And Sarita, I'm so grateful to you. All you committee chairperson, 285th podcast, sir, for last 285 days, 30 committee chairperson, 30 days. So Sarita is always on ninth, for example. And everyone try to get the faculty by whom either we learn academic or the lessons of a life because of their service, their spirituality, their political leadership, their philosophical way, whatever it may be. Every leader has given us a lot, and I think we all have evolved over the years, complete those days. And I think giving is a living, probably my whole team is realizing by listening to so many like you, sir. Thank you so much once again. And I will join the viewers link to listen to you all. Sarita, you are my most dependable
Thank
chairperson.
you, madam.
Any work we give, you do it so methodically. And I'm sure तुम्हारा ये जो खोज है ना, this podcast will become a learning lesson to many more. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I,
madam.
Thank you
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
I'll join the viewers link to listen to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. So let us begin with some questions for Dr. Ravi Kannan. So, Dr. Ravi, let us tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I was
So,
a
once you trained, what actually drew you to oncology, and what did you find most challenging about it?
my father was an Air Force officer, and
Mm-hmm.
with him we traveled across the country. Wherever he went, we went with him. And I
Right,
became a doctor because of my mother.
right.
When I was very small, she
Uh,
instilled that thought, so much so when I finished class 12, I had no other thought in mind. And I have been very fortunate right through my school days, my MBBS days in Chennai, my MS times in Delhi, and then during MCH and subsequently, I've had amazing people mentor me. And all of us, I think, are basically crucibles into which people throw ideas and philosophies, and we are molded by all of them. Nothing is really original, you know. People, and so that is how I also, different people contributed to what I became. My MS time in MAMC in Delhi were particularly important because during general surgery training, more than 50% of our surgical workload used to be cancer, colon cancer, breast
mm,
cancer, thyroid cancer. And so during my MS times, I had decided that I wanted to pursue a career in cancer surgery. And so when I finished general surgery, I wrote to Dr. Shanta at the Cancer Institute, and I didn't really expect a reply. And but then I got a reply asking me to come for an interview. So I
right,
went for an interview, and Dr. Krishnamurthy interviewed me for the lowest post at the Cancer Institute, that of a registrar in surgical oncology. And he interviewed
right,
me, very, very serious interview. He interviewed me for more than an hour, asked me
right.
all sorts of questions about different cancers, and I must have given a whole lot of foolish answers. At the end of which he said uh, that your grades are good and we will be happy to give you a position. And so, do you want to ask me anything? And I asked him, sir, as registrar in surgical oncology, what would my job entail? He looked at me for a moment and said, he quoted some senior surgeon of that era. He said, the role of a surgical oncologist ranges from performing an esophagogastrectomy to providing a bedpan to a patient in need. And that statement left a very, very deep um, impact on my mind. And so I went there, I trained, I worked at the institute for 15 years, and the institute shaped a lot of my thinking and philosophy.
Right. And then you became the director also, the head of the department.
Yeah, I worked as a registrar, then I worked as a postgraduate, then I worked as a member of the faculty of surgical oncology, and at some point became head of department. That happens to everybody. We gradually move, nothing special about it.
I think the person who actually mentored you, that's such an important message that you should be prepared to work for, I mean, do anything for the patient. Even it may have to give a bedpan. So I think this is something, we have to be that humble when we're actually training and not think that we are in a very once we get into PG, then we don't have should not think that we have become something very important and very great. So yes,
Some
that's I
of
think
the
that's
some
a
of
very
the statements some of my mentors made,
hmm.
stays with you. It happened with all of us, during my
Yes.
surgical residency days. I had Dr. Sarda tell us, every time we would have a complication, we would make excuses. Then a bad craftsman brings his tools for um, badly done. And that stayed with me, that always you have to examine your surgical procedure for a post-operative complication. Dr. Krishnamurti would say, if the patient does not have resources for his or her treatment, it is the job of the treating physician to find them. Dr. Shanta would say, for Dr. Shanta, it was always everything for every patient. There would never be a punctuation mark in the care of a patient. And so these things shape you
Yes.
as you grow older, and then you start becoming them. You start telling your residents the same stories till they get fed up of you.
Hmm. Yes, I think these are such valuable advice actually. Not advice, valuable mentoring, which I must say. Yes. So, yes, Dr. Ravi, can you take us back to the moment when you actually first visited Kachar Cancer Hospital and what went through your mind?
What? See, I visited Qatar Cancer Hospital once before I actually came to this place. They invited. So the hospital story is very inspiring. In the 1980s, 90s, the cancer hospital was not there, and the hospital was actually created by lay people because there was a need for cancer care in the region. People would not be able to travel off to Guwahati or Kolkata, and many of them would defer treatment and die of cancer. And so what happened was they lay people, tradesmen, businessmen, teachers, lawyers, engineers, a handful of doctors joined hands and formed a cancer society. And then they went door to door seeking funds. They held street corner plays. They went through very lot of hardship, and then they managed to put up a basic hospital. And then the director, Dr. Chinmoy Chaudhary, visited a number of cancer centers to see how a cancer hospital should be organized. And so he spent some time with us in Chennai in maybe I don't remember the year 2000 or something. And after that, he was institute, we had a policy that everybody should be treated irrespective of their paying capacity. And Dr. Chaudhary was very taken up by this philosophy, and he would keep calling and referring patients across. And so, as part of that engagement, he invited me to visit the hospital once. And when I came here, I was just struck by the patients who came here. They would come from because they would publicize that somebody from Chennai is coming. People from across the countryside would come here from distant parts of the region, and they would wait in long queues just to have a glimpse of the doctor from Chennai,
Right.
and they 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 want the 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 poverty, it struck me. And that is
Mm.
something I went back and spoke to Dr. Krishnamurti also about, about how, difficult life can be for people in different parts of the country. That is my first recollection of uh, what happens here.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
we just 2 days back we were in Shillong and Meghalaya, and then they were in fact the principal secretary of health there, he was saying how when they actually, if you look at the problems why the mothers die because they just cannot reach hospitals
Mm,
because of the
mm.
connectivity. There's so many villages which are not connected, or this connectivity is an issue when there is a rain and this the weather is a problem. So I think it's really it's a devotion, something which is that you decided to move permanently, and why, what made you actually decide permanently to move permanently to
So,
Silchar and get on your
so,
family?
so Dr. Krishnamurti, Dr. Chaudhary, would keep calling me and telling me to join. And when I told Sita, my wife, that they are inviting, all we knew of
Mm.
Assam those days was bomb blasts and floods. And Sita
Yes.
said, we will go to any place on earth but Assam. Verbatim, this is what she said.
Yes.
But then what happened was in 2006, late 2006, I resigned from the institute over some trivial matter. And then
Right.
Dr. Chaudhary came to know about this, and he started every weekend. There would be a long distance call. They would write. And so I told Sita, let's go and visit and see what is happening. And so my daughter, who was in class 4, Sita and I came on a visit. We spent a week here. I spent time in the hospital. Sita went around the community. The society members took us visiting schools, and school principals were so supportive. Doctor, come, your daughter will get admission. She doesn't know Hindi, she doesn't know Bangla, she doesn't know Akomia. No, don't worry, doctor. Children are very smart, they will learn. And then just serendipity, the local, I'm a KV product. The local KV principal, Hari Singh, was my batch KV pass out. He passed out from KV Kapurthala. I passed out from
Right.
KV Tamra. And in 2 minutes, we
Right.
had that common shared KV background. Ravi, your daughter will get admission, blah, blah, blah. Why? But before we could go back, Sita made that decision. She said, Ravi, there's a lot of need here. And I think this is what we should be doing. Let's give it a shot. And so it is her support that actually made us move here.
Yes, I think that family support is so very important.
Uh,
Yes. So
my
what were the
father
biggest
had,
challenge? Yeah.
sorry, go ahead. No, no, go
Yeah, yeah,
ahead.
go
Go ahead.
on.
No, my father had respiratory failure. He needed
Oh.
constant attention. He moved with
Mm.
us a couple of months after we moved. Both my parents. Sita's father had metastatic prostate cancer, and he actually came
Mm.
with us when we made the shift. So all of this, see, I think the fact is many of us would like to do things different from what we are conventionally doing. But what happens is life circumstances don't support them. There are
Mm.
mortgages to pay, there are kids in school, college, there are family members that have to be, there's so many constraints that prevent us from dropping something and moving out. It is just for me, things just worked out. The life circumstances just facilitated this decision. And
That's so
making that
modest.
decision, no, no. Truth is, having been given all this, not accepting would have been tragic. It just worked out and we made that decision. That's all.
Yes, I think that's really wonderful. So what, when you actually took over, what were the biggest challenges? Medical, financial, emotional, and then teamwork and doctors,
We
healthcare
were a
staff.
very, very small hospital. We were only 23 staff with 20 beds. And most of the beds would remain empty. But since
Hmm.
in small towns, what happens, even when you go to Shillong, for example, when word gets around that people from Delhi have come, any doctor in the next big town is a bada doctor. And I was a big doctor from Chennai all the way. And so quickly the volumes built up. But then we were a small hospital, 23 staff. We didn't have resources, we didn't have money, we didn't have logistics, we didn't have everything was scarce. You won't believe, in the initial days for 23 staff, our monthly salary expenditure was 96,000 rupees for 23 of us. And
Yeah.
and 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 from there, slowly we because volumes were there and there was a need, and so it gradually built up. But then building a team, see, I'm not a trained administrator. I have no idea of hospital administration. I have no idea of economics. I have no idea of planning and SWOT assessment, and all these management terms were alien to me. And we
Yes.
learned on the job. So what every time there would be a problem, we would simple things, like there would be quarrels between staff, and
Right.
and
Yes.
and and the nursing quarters was just adjacent to our house. And in the night, a quarrel would break out between girls from two different communities. And one of my nurses, who's a Naga, she would simply get hold of the Bangla girl by the hair and bang, 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 bang on the wall.
Oh God.
And I,
Wow.
ah, and then they would come, people would call, oh, jhagda ho gaya, come. And I would go running, and Sita would say, go, don't go alone, I will come with you. And she will come running behind me. And one time, twice, thrice, I would explain to them that in civilized society, we don't settle differences like this. We talk about it. She would not understand. One day, in a fit of anger, I told her, Khardun, you must not do it because I am telling you, you should not do it. She looked at me and said, okay, if you're saying I won't do it. After it never happened. And I wondered, a paternalistic decision like that had to be made. I could have done it long ago. I just didn't realize
Yeah.
what was needed to make it happen. So simple cultural differences, to,
Hmm.
in the hospital, to tell people that we have to report at 8 o'clock. And
Hmm.
some of my colleagues, they did not understand. They would ask me, why should we report at 8 o'clock? How on earth am I to
Right.
explain to them that reporting to 8 o'clock is a discipline that we must follow? From things simple as that, it took us, we
Hmm.
didn't have a Sumit. Sumit used to be our medical oncologist in the initial years. He's now in Delhi. Sumit and I were making rounds in the ward, and there was a small child with cancer, probably leukemia, my impression is. And she was eating puffed rice soaked in water with salt and long green chilies. And as soon as the hospital started, when we joined, because the numbers grew, shops sprung up outside the hospital selling, food like this. And so they are poor people, no? So puffed rice and soaked in water, that plastic paper is slit open. Through the plastic paper, we could see the flow. And Sumit was, sir, ye kya ho raha hai? What is this happening? And so immediately we took a decision, from tomorrow, we will have a kitchen that will feed all patients. We didn't know where the resources were coming from. We didn't know anything. But every time we had a problem, we put in place a measure and then moved on. Firefighting all the time. And that, to a very large extent, continues even today. We seem to be constantly battling one crisis after the other. And but we move on. There are times when we didn't know where the next month's salary was coming from. One of the things we are
Right.
very proud of is we've never in these 18, 19 years defaulted on salaries. And there have been times when we pay salaries on the 5th. End of the month, we didn't have any money, and suddenly some source that was due to us would come in, and we managed to pay all the salaries. Now, now we've made it a point, that if we don't have money for salaries, we have to take a loan from the bank. We will take a loan from the bank, but salaries cannot be deferred. And the only reason we take loans from the bank is for salaries. We have a policy of not taking loans for buying equipment or building infrastructure because once we get into this ROI triangle, the money has to come from patients who cannot afford it. And so we will never take any loan for infrastructure development. And so over time,
Right.
we put in place measures and moved on.
Yes, that's so inspiring. But then, how do you motivate your team, yeah, and your staff to stay, and the community where the resources are limited? What have to do you have that face that problem of staff leaving?
Yeah, so the turnover amongst staff is actually pretty low. Most of my nurses and technologists, all of them come from the region, not
Right.
necessarily from our district, but from
Okay.
surrounding regions, from Manipur, from Mizoram, from Tripura. They come from this region and from the surrounding districts in the surrounding states. But we also have staff that come from all over the country. We have doctors and scientists who come from, Jammu and Andhra Pradesh and Kerala and all over the country. And
Right.
so, but considering all that, our turnover rates have not been very high. My thought is probably many of them come because they are happy with the kind of work that they are doing. And I
Right.
think the autonomy to do things and the freedom to explore new ways of doing things is probably what keeps them here. I'm pretty sure it's
Right.
not the salaries that we pay. And
Yes.
I think the the they see the impact that they have. They see the change that they bring about in the community around us. And I think that can be a very powerful internal motivator for many people.
Right. Yes. That they're probably very motivated by you also.
I don't know about that. I think it's their own work that keeps them motivated. I hope it's not me. No, no, because
So
that is
you.
not a sustainable thing. It has to be an internal. You may be inspired
Hmm.
by somebody, but motivation is a 24/7 need. We have to be motivated and inspired every single day, every single moment when we work in adverse situations. And that cannot come from external factors, from
Right.
somebody whom you look up to, or from money, or from promotions, or from recognition. It is something that is deeply internal and personal to everybody.
Yes. So I guess at after a certain time they are motivated and they continue to be motivated. They have that ignite that is their commitment to work. So, sir, you often say that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. How do you manage to do that in practice, and how do you manage to uh, balance medical science with empathy in your day-to-day work?
So science and empathy are not opposites. They are complementary to each other. They go very deeply hand in glove. And healthcare it is not a charity or a privilege reserved for only the fortunate. The access and equity of a just society. And I think a system that is not inclusive or a system that is exclusive is an incomplete system. And I think the way we treat people who are marginalized, healthcare, but also for education, also for legal aid, also for employment, for everything, the more inclusive we are, that is what defines our society. And healthcare is a very important part of that process. It is How do we build a nation, that is strong and all of us contribute to it? And, and if each of us were to contribute a little bit to making an inclusive, just society, we'd have done a tremendous deal by our country.
Yes. So how do you manage to get the equipment, and do you get it? Do you get government to support? How do you manage the funds over there?
So actually, it used to be a little more difficult in the earlier times when we were unknown. With
Hmm.
time, it has become a little easier. But then, whatever has happened here, I think it is because of a very large circle of goodness that encompasses all of us. And people who have growth has happened because of my colleagues in the hospital, very obviously, but also because members of the governing society, also the local community here, they are very deeply rooted in the community. And then people from elsewhere in the country, people who have never ever visited here, who just heard about us through some source and took a leap of faith in supporting us. And then people from outside the country. I think all of us joining hands helps, improve a lot of, you know, fellow human beings in a community like this, one little bit at a time. And then recognition also makes it easier for us to apply for CSR grants. And so
Hmm.
long ago, we took a policy decision that regular operational maintenance, salaries and CMCs and electricity, water, all of that has to be from what we earn. But
Right.
but all infrastructure development has to be supported. If we don't have money, we will not do it. So our CT scanner, our linear accelerators, our PET, everything is supported through a grant from some generous donor or company or whosoever. And
Right.
as far as operational expenditure, see 90% plus of our patients are supported through some uh, patient support grant. It could be the PMJY now, it could be the Indian Cancer Society, it could be the Mahesh Memorial Trust, it could be uh, there are several agencies that support us. And so um, the Gujarani Trust. There are several people that support us, individual donors, big and small. And so all of that helps make sure that our patient care does not falter. But I think it's basically each of us holding the other's hand to collectively push the bar further. I think it's
Yes.
very
That.
important to build friends, friend building, friend raising is more important than
Hmm.
fundraising. We need
Hmm.
to build coalitions that will help us do what we want to do.
Yes, I think that's really vital in uh, actually sustaining the project and the sustaining the program. So how does the community?
Sustaining is another story,
Yes.
Sustain, we are now exploring the possibility of leadership change. And so we are now
Mm,
wondering, how do we transmit our values to the next generation? What is it that
yes.
leads to, these are questions that are currently,
Mm,
being discussed in the organization. What is it that leads to erosion of values? Is it the leadership that's slackened? Is it younger people? How do we maintain? Supposing we say we are pro-poor, how do we maintain that pro-poor thought through subsequent generations? So all of us sat down, wrote down our core values. We said compassion, we said pro-poor, we said scientific treatment planning, we said teamwork, we said gratitude, we said innovation. These are our six core values. And then we sat and together wrote down our uh, a mission, saying that, we want to make sure that we are able to prevent all cancers that can be prevented, that we don't deny anybody treatment for want of resources, that we make sure people don't die in agony and misery because of cancer, and that we don't impoverish people and families because of treatment. So and then now we are wondering, how do we teach the next generation? How do we pass on this? And how do we see if they will? So we sat down and wrote down what these values mean, what we will do because of this, what we will not do because of this. We organize, workshops and training programs around all of this. Many things, some of them may sound very foolish, some of them are not so foolish, but these are actual topics of discussion in the organization. How is it we are going to teach others and then teach them to teach ahead in turn? So there are two components to it, and so these are things. How do we maintain financial sustainability? How do we maintain relevant sustainability? Today we are saying poor people are, people who earn 10 rupees a day, for example. Tomorrow the idea of poverty will change. But there will, so
Hmm.
long as there are human beings, there will always be people who are marginalized. We are, it will be like that. There will be some people who have more and some people who don't have anything. So how do we make sure that we always stay relevant in that we always take care of people who are excluded? How do we take care of people who are marginalized? So these are questions that are very aggressively and actively discussed in the organization on a regular basis. We have,
Yes, I think it's really vital, especially with in the younger generation. Actually going away from medicine. Although initially they are taking up medicine, but a percentage of them are actually moving away from medicine and taking up other careers. So I think that at this time it's really important for them to be sustaining. Made sustain them at least in the profession, and then move on
See,
to
actually,
areas where they.
youngsters are not without ideology. They have very strong, they
Hmm.
have stars in their eyes, They want to change the world. And
Hmm.
it is we as older people who are not able to sustain their enthusiasm and nurture them properly. I think the responsibility lies with us. And
Yeah.
today, medicine is no longer an insulated field where you need a stethoscope and a scalpel to treat. There are so many more aspects to medicine and AI, and AI is going to change many things. And then economics
Hmm.
and literature and humanity. So many psychologists and so many things contribute to good medicine today. And so any profession can aid and assist core medicine to become better. And so I think it is not such a bad thing that some of our younger people don't want to be doctors, but they want to be biotechnologists or scientists or economists, or they can all contribute to human wellness in some way or the other. We just have to
Hmm.
encourage them to do that.
Sure. Yes. It's just the way we see it, I think. Yes. So, what about the future? What are your dreams for the future of Kachar Cancer Institute and for rural healthcare in India?
See, my thought is that see, I think as an organization, we must be more, our current challenges, are that we want to be more rooted in the community. Our engagement with the community has to become more. The other thing we also very currently we are bothered about is if we treat people, some of them die, some of them become well and go back. But then what happens is we did a short survey and found only a small percentage of the numbers that we treat go back to active livelihoods. That means what bothers us is by going through cancer and its care, many of them don't go back to a productive life. And so by treating them, you've created one more mouth to feed in a poor family, and that is not okay. So how do
Hmm.
we restore livelihoods is a very big question that we are facing. The other thing that
Sure.
we are also exercised about is, when most of my patients are daily wage earners, despite the
Hmm.
fact that in Assam education is free, they don't have to pay for tuition, books, uniform. Many kids will drop out of school because they have to support the family when the breadwinner has to go to hospital for himself or herself for a family member. And so kids
Hmm.
are
Yes.
forced in. So how do we keep, and many of them, nearly 40% of them don't go back to school. So how do we keep
Hmm.
education alive for these kids? So trying to
Right.
so, apart from treating a sick person, we also have to be
Hmm.
cognizant of the potential for loss of incomes, loss of livelihoods, potential for loss of education for kids. These are things that we have to start looking at. So, we're now in
True.
talks with several people. We need ideas from this is where different people will give us different ideas, and that is what we can put back into the system to help. We may not be able to do all of this, but we can liaison, we can build coalitions with people who will do this for people, for the community. And so this is what I'm thinking. And then, of course, care must be as decentralized, as close to the homes of the population as possible. So there is minimal disruption of their lifestyle. They don't lose
True.
daily wages, they don't spend money on travel, they don't have to spend
Hmm.
money for accommodation, for food. Many things will be possible the more we decentralize care. And that is my vision for the hospital.
Hmm. I think that these are so important and so vital. In fact, these are the issues why these are the problems why even the patients do not come for follow-up, or they just don't complete the treatment also, just because they just cannot come to the hospital, or the family member is not able to get them for some reason, either because of the distance, or the loss of wages that they suffer. So I think that's very, very important, and then that's it's going to be very valuable for the patients, whatever you would think of. So how did you feel when you received the Padma Shri, and then also received the Ramon Magsaysay Award? So how did you feel when you received the awards?
I actually felt, I actually continue to feel so, that all the recognition is actually not about an individual. See,
Hmm.
I represent a whole lot of people who are engaged in healthcare, my own colleagues, people in the community, people. And and the recognition is for that human endeavor of people joining hands and trying to bring about change for others without anything in return. And that is what I think these recognitions mean. They're not about Ravi Kannan as an individual. They don't need anything. Uh, you understand?
That's
I
being so
think,
humble.
no, but that is the truth. Don't you think so? That
Yeah,
one
but
man
you are the
cannot do it.
leaders. Yes,
If it
but
had
you
not
you
been
led them.
me,
Yes.
no, no, if it had not been me, somebody else would have done it. They may have done it even better. The time was right. There was a need, and somebody would have filled that role. It just so happened that I was there. I was given the opportunity and I took it. Otherwise, somebody else would have done it.
That's really humble of you, sir. That's really great. So, what message do you hope young doctors and medical students take from your journey?
I think what is important is is medicine is not about where you practice medicine. It is about
Hmm.
why you practice medicine. You understand that, excellence and empathy are not opposites, that, um, that science tells us what we should be doing, and empathy gives you the purpose of why you're doing it. And that is what I think youngsters should understand, that when you deliver healthcare in places where it is scarce, you're actually expanding the boundaries of medicine. You understand?
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
is what I think youngsters should understand. That when you work place like this, you're not sacrificing anything. There's no sacrifice at
Hmm.
all. It gives you meaning and it gives you an avenue for mastery. I think that's what youngsters should understand.
Yes, that's I think very humane approach. I think we should be adopting rather than being the just think technically, which specialty will I do, which specialty will I go, what will I do next, what is the super specialty that I will do, but after that, what after that? So I think from your life they would really learn a lot, that it's
I
not
don't know
just
from my life, but I think it's important that we teach our youngsters that.
hmm, yes, sir. So, what actually keeps you motivated through all the challenges and the daily challenges that you face?
No, when we see change happening, I think it applies to all my colleagues here, and my colleagues elsewhere also, people who work under similar circumstances. I think it is the change, the impact of what you're doing. When you see, you know, people getting well, going back to life, you know, not getting impoverished, and
Mm.
coming and bringing you brinjals and peas as gifts.
Mhm.
That's what I think keeps us going. That you're doing good by the community that you're working in, and that is what I think. And then of course I also have younger colleagues, I see them grow, I see them become good, I see them doing wonderful work as surgeons and physicians and technicians and nurses, and they all grow as people, they all grow as professionals, they all grow as human beings, and then they get married, they have kids, they all that is very good to watch. And I think that is a source of immense satisfaction and pride.
That's very nice, sir. So, how has this journey changed your definition of success? Do you view success differently?
Success is not about uh, achievements. The achievements are temporary. Everybody claps for a few minutes and then everybody is forgotten. It's
Hmm.
not about money and it is not about. I think success is when others live better because you have lived, when you feel, you know, fulfillment in what you're doing. I think that is what success should be about. That you've learned something, somebody taught you. So see, remember, we are all born unequal. Whatever democracy we may say, I was born in a house that was able to afford education, that was able to encourage me to become a doctor and work and things like that. And at the same time, there were thousands of kids who were born into houses of rickshaw pullers and boatmen and people who had no opportunities in life. And these opportunities
True.
were given to me. I did not do anything to earn them. They were just, I
Hmm.
was born where I was born, and that defined who I became. And so because of that, if I did well and I earned that, there is no success in it. If I'm able
Hmm.
to use the knowledge, the gifts that were given to me, whatever I need for myself is fine, but I'm being given a lot more than what I need for myself. If I can use that for the benefit of others, I think that's what is success about.
Yes, I think that's such an important message for the youngsters, not to just think about marks or some degrees, but actually what how your work actually makes the change.
The gifts that see, some of us are born wealthy, some of us are born
Hmm.
talented, some of us are born with plenty of opportunity. These are gifts that have been given to us just gratis. And so we have to use them wisely.
Hmm.
That I think is very important. It's a responsibility. Whoever created us thought us fit for that responsibility and gave us that, thinking we will use it for the benefit of those who don't have all these things. That is why I think we have been endowed differently. And that responsibility is something we have to discharge before we leave.
Yes, that's such a nice message, sir. I think also if you could give a message to the world, to the youngsters, and to everybody who's listening about compassion and medicine, what would you
So
what would it be?
compassion has is a is not a soft skill. It is not a sentimental thing. But I think it is the deepest, the most, uh, the best form of clinical competence. See, as I said, science gives us what we should do, but it is compassion that gives us purpose in for the science that we practice. And compassion is is that you feel for somebody's suffering, and then you want to and you act on that feeling and do something to relieve that suffering, but you do that without any expectation of return. That is what true compassion is. And that can only be when you're a very competent clinical practitioner. And I think compassion is see, we talk of precision medicine, but compassion is probably the most precise intervention that we can practice. And compassion can be learned. And if we practice compassion, it actually sharpens our observation. We are observant to small cues. A patient
Hmm.
talking so sometimes we will have a couple come in. The man must be sick, and the woman will talk rapidly because she's
Hmm.
afraid. She's afraid of
Hmm.
what will happen, and she's trying to compensate for her fear by rapidly saying something. And so compassion sharpens our observation and judgment and makes our decisions that much more um, relevant and precise. And so it is not just one, when we are talking to a patient, if we gently put our hand on the patient's shoulder and talk, it is not a empty gesture.
Hmm.
It does far more to reassure the patient, to you know calm anxiety, allay anxiety. And I think it's a very, very vital part of being a physician, in fact, being human.
Yes, but with this world when there is more, the doctors are practicing defensive medicine and they're worried about patient complaints. So how do you think that this can be
So compassion will
overcome?
actually, yeah, yeah, compassion will actually demonstrating compassion will actually reduce conflict between patient and
Mm.
practitioner. It will
Yes,
reduce the disagreements and the court cases and the suing
mm.
and all of that will actually come down if you can communicate and demonstrate empathy and compassion. It will, I
Yes,
mean, I think a lot of these things happen because our communication is
is poor.
inadequate.
Yes,
And
yes,
and I think it is very important way for reducing conflicts.
true. So, Dr. Ravi, the Foxy, the organization has 46,000 gynecologists. So, this podcast will be viewed by about 46,000 gynecologists. So, what message would you give to the the gynecologists, either the practicing ones or the training, or those in training who may be listening to this podcast?
I think I think as healthcare providers, it is very important for us to recognize the person behind the illness, to see the
Hmm.
suffering and not look away. I think it is very important. And I think it is very important that while we treat sickness, we promote well-being, that we promote health, that we promote
Hmm.
wellness as gynecologists, as physicians, as in whatever as nurses, as technologists, all of us have the ability. See, India is transitioning from a developing to a developed nation, and our diseases are also metamorphosing from communicable to non-communicable diseases. Now, it's a time when we have large numbers of NCDs. And if you look at NCD, if you look at cancer, 60-70% of cancers in India are caused by tobacco, areca nut, alcohol, dietary preferences and practices, inadequate physical activity, obesity, and some infections and inflammations. If we address these five causes, we would prevent a lot of cancers.
True.
India, we cannot go about screening for all, but we can prevent and by awareness detect many of these cancers early. But leave cancers aside. If you look at heart
Hmm.
diseases, tobacco, alcohol, dietary practices, and inadequate exercise. If you look at stroke, you look at diabetes, you look at infertility, you look at impotence, you look at whole lot of NCDs are caused by the same set of factors. And so
Hmm.
when we set out to prevent cancer, we prevent many non-communicable. So we're in fact promoting health in the community. And that can be done by every one of us. And I
Hmm.
think promoting health is a bigger national responsibility. If we want to do good by our country, I think it's very important that we promote health amongst our fellow citizenry. And it's because ultimately it's only a healthy community, healthy nation that can be productive and that can protect itself. So I think as physicians, as gynecologists, as obstetricians, as we must go all out to promote wellness before we start looking at treating sickness.
True. Yes, absolutely. In fact, a lot of the initiatives by our president are targeted towards promoting health. The Sampurna Abhiyan, which is actually health before pregnancy, and even the know your numbers. That's also know your numbers, know your vital stats, know your blood pressure, know your weight, know your BMI. So that's many of the women. I mean, many of anybody actually, many don't even know their own statistics. They would have never had the blood pressure checked, never had the blood sugar checked. So I think these are very, very important that at least we ensure these basic things, the basic health and healthy life, which is so very important. So it's been really inspiring listening to your life and your story, Dr. Kannan. And it's there's a lot to learn from you, and I
We all learn
wish
from
you.
each other all the time.
Yes,
Learning
I
is a two-way street.
yes. So sometime when I come to that side, I will definitely come and
Please,
visit.
please, you're more
Yes,
than welcome.
yes. It
All
would be
all
a
of your
great
members at Foxy are welcome to visit us.
it would be a
It will
great
be our
learning
privilege.
experience. Yes, it would be our privilege to visit as well. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, support team.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.